Let's get to this Heat versus Celtics series, the series that's still going on. Could have ended last night, but Jason Tatum said, not on my watch. The Celtics in general said, not on my watch. And they went out there and had a heck of a performance. Superstar Jason Tatum showed up big time in that third quarter. I'm going to pull up the stats from last night. I've got the stats from the series, but I didn't have the game stats from last night, surprisingly. Pulled up here. So Jason Tatum, 33 points, 11 rebounds, 7 assists. He had an all-around game. I knew it was an all-around. I didn't think it was a triple-double. I knew it was an all-around. Still 5 turnovers, but you kind of live with that with Jason Tatum. He comes with his ability on the basketball court. And then you got guys showing up. Everybody in the starting 5 had double figures. Grant Williams off the bench had 14. He's been pretty dang good offensively the last 2 games, and they brought him in. I think he's been a nice little change of pace. I know he poked the bear. Game 3 shouldn't have done that and caused Jimmy Butler to go crazy on him. Even though I don't like him doing that, I love the energy he is bringing to this team. He's one of those guys. There's always like a couple bench players on these championship teams and these playoff teams where they lost all their minutes. Like maybe they were a key piece to the team a few months ago, maybe last year, like Grant Williams was in the playoffs, in the finals, and then he loses all his minutes, comes in and is prepared and ready. It's like he's been playing 40 minutes every single game. He came in prepared. He came in ready. His shot was ready. He was not there was no lack of energy. His attitude wasn't bad. His body language was good. So there's always those kind of players to kind of key back to my Lakers. Lonnie Walker did that for us in the Warriors series. Was ready for his moment. Was a starter for us at the beginning of the season. Lost all of his minutes. Didn't play in the playoffs at all. Comes in that Warriors series and puts him away in one of those games. And that's what it felt like Grant Williams has kind of done in this series for the Celtics these last 2 games, even though he poked the bear last game. He's come out and just given this team a little bit of a spark offensively off that bench when they needed it, especially from 3, because this team has been so good from 3 all season, and they have struggled mightily in this series specifically. Jaylen Brown specifically from 3 is 12% in this series so far, and that is absolutely unacceptable from a near superstar. He's a star. He's a near superstar. I think that's a valid thing to say about Jaylen Brown, and he has not shown up in this series. He's been probably the key thing for me in this series is Jaylen Brown's just likability to score the basketball, and his confidence. It's just low to me when I see him on the court. 16.8 points per game with only 6 rebounds and 3.5 assists on 12% shooting percent, 12% 3-point shooting percentage. Last night he only had 17 on 6 of 16, 1 of 5 from downtown. So he's still, even last night he was still struggling with five fouls. Let's see how many turnovers he had, because that's always been a problem of his too, his turnovers. He actually only had 1 last night, so you'd like to see that from him, kind of being a little bit more efficient with the basketball for assists as well. But efficiency when it comes to that shot, that's what I got to see. That's what I got to see Jaylen Brown. You can't do this in the conference finals and expect to win. That's the crazy part about all this is that Jaylen Brown is he's just not showing up, and I'm going to get to game 5 in a sec. But that has been one of the biggest things is the Heat are getting contributions from Gabe Vincent, Caleb Martin, Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler. The Celtics are getting Jason Tatum's 27.8 points per game. That's almost it. Next leading scorer, 16.8 per game. Next leading scorer, 11.8 per game. Yeah, and those 4 players I named for the Heat, 26.8 for Jimmy Butler, 18.5 for Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent, 17.5, Bam, 16.3. And Caleb Martin and Vincent are shooting 46% from 3, 50% from 3. Both are shooting over 55% from the field. Caleb Martin's shooting 63.8% from the field. That's a shooter. That's not a guy that's going to the basket every time. That's not a center that's sitting in the paint and hook shotting it. No, that's a guy from shooting from 3. That's a guy shooting the mid-range. He's attacking the basket, but he's shooting the ball. He's a shooter. It's insane that he has that high of a shooting percentage. And that's been the story of this series so far too. I could talk about JB not showing up and Stars not being there, but man, these role players for the Heat have been unstoppable nearly. I mean, they have shown up every single game, it feels like. I think yesterday was probably the only game they really didn't get much of a contribution. Vincent had a good game, and Martin, once again, those two guys are just staying ready every single game. 17 from Vincent, 16 from Martin. So they didn't get the other guys, besides those two guys, didn't really show. Bam, he didn't. 10 points, that's not bad, but 0 assists, 5 rebounds, that's not much of a dominant presence. Jimmy, he had a good day, 29, obviously. It was a little cold in the second half, so kind of allowed the Celtics to take that big lead on him late. So that's the biggest key takeaways for me in this series is, Jaylen Brown not showing up in this series at all. Terrible shooting percentage for this team. Let's actually look at it right now. I have the team stats pulled up for the series. Shooting percentage for the Boston Celtics is 32% right now, while the Heat are shooting 41%. So there's the flip right there. The Heat were shooting lower than, I think, near 30%, if not lower, in the regular season this year, while the Celtics were one of the better teams at the three, and they can't shoot anything in this series, and the Heat can't miss. So it's one of those things where that kind of just paints the picture so far. The Celtics are not winning in the ways that they have to win. The Heat know how to beat this Celtics squad, and that's not letting them hit 15 threes. I think the stats are, they're undefeated when they hit 15 threes in this postseason and winless when they don't. So if they don't hit 15 from that 3-point line, it's dang near a guaranteed win for you. So I think that's what Eric Spoelstra has really told his team. I know there's been multiple timeouts where he has said, hey guys, this team can only beat us if they hit the three. They're going to hit their shots. Like last night, the post game, he said, this team just hit their shots, y'all. They were bound. They were due, This team doesn't just miss their shots 4 straight games. They have not lost 4 straight games all year. Didn't really expect them to lose last night. It was tough being on the road, but they showed effort, especially after game 3 when it looked like they quit on everybody. So you love to see that effort and that display of competitiveness in game 4 from this team, because there was a lot of talk about them quitting. Magic even came out and had something to say about it, and the only other franchise that Magic respects more than the Celtics is his Lakers. So there was no surprise there when it comes to Magic's comments and stuff. But overall in this series, it's been a heck of a series. A shock. That's probably the biggest word I would use so far. But it's not over. It's not over. First one to 4. Celtics got to get 3 more, 4 straight. It's going to be an uphill battle. I'll give you all my prediction for Game 5 soon. But I'll say this. The series is not over. The series is not over. The biggest game is the next game. I don't want to talk too much about all my points in that. But the biggest game of the series is the next game. The Celtics it's a 1-game series for them. The Heat are just playing to play. The Heat have to come out prepared because they don't want this to go back to Miami. I know they don't. I know they want to finish this thing in Boston, because then that puts the pressure back on them. But like I said, I'll talk about that a little bit later in this show. Game predictions, Game 5, Celtics versus Heat. I touched on it a little bit. I don't want to get too much longer in this pod, so I'll wrap this one up. I talked about this is going to be the toughest game of the series. It's going to be the toughest game of the series to this point. Obviously, every game from this point will be tougher. I think Game 5 might actually be tougher than Game 6 for both teams. I think Game 5 and Game 7 will be the toughest games of the series if it gets to Game 7. The pressure is mounting. The pressure is still completely on the Celtics, but it's in that shifting period. If the Celtics win this game in Boston, send it back to Miami, it flips. The pressure flips. It's still slightly on the Celtics, maybe going to that Game 6, but last time in Miami, you got to go back to Boston if you lose. The momentum, everything will be flipping to the Celtics. It won't be fully flipped, but it'll start flipping to the Celtics. So that's why I think this is the most important game for the Miami Heat here. Can the question I got here, the only reason I'm sitting, can the Celtics pull this off? It's tough. It's tough. Series wise, they can. But they have to be their best. Celtics have to be their best. Celtics have to be at their absolute highest level offensively and defensively, like kind of stuff that they were in game 4. Third quarter, Jason Tatum has to play like that all game. Jaylen Brown has to be there at every moment. He cannot take off moments. He cannot miss 4 threes out of 5 threes. 4 out of 5 threes. He's got to stop that. This Heat team had moments last night to win, and they just couldn't put it together late. Celtics responded every single time. So, for me, Celtics have to be at their absolute best, and the Miami better not get caught slacking, is all I got to say. Because if they get caught slacking in game 5, that momentum starts flipping, brother. That momentum is going to start flipping real quick. But like I said, I truly think the rest of the series comes down to Jaylen Brown. I think Jason Tatum will show up in game 5. I think Jason Tatum's going to show up for the rest of the series if it keeps going. I think Jason Tatum understands what this moment's like. I think Jaylen Brown has got to wake up, though. Jaylen Brown has got to understand that he is bringing this team down. That man's got to get ready, got to get prepared. I need him to stop taking threes. I don't know what else he needs to do, but at the end of the day, Jaylen Brown, figure it out, brother. And the Celtics can win game 5 in this series. I got Boston winning game 5, 115-108. Let's see if this series goes to a game 6.